breaking: Trump and Putin face OFF after high-stakes Ukraine ceasefire talks. In a historic summit held in Anchorage, Alaska, U.S. President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin engaged in nearly 3 hours of high-stakes negotiations aimed at ending the ongoing war in Ukraine. The meeting, which included private discussions reportedly held within the presidential limousine, was shorter than initially anticipated, raising questions about the depth and substance of the talks. Despite the brevity, both leaders are expected to announce potential progress toward a ceasefire, though concrete details remain scarce. The summit took place at Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson in Anchorage, marking the first face-to-face encounter between the two leaders since 2019. President Trump, known for his unpredictable diplomatic style, reportedly expressed his willingness to walk away from the table if no tangible agreement emerged. This stance underscores the high stakes involved, with the future of Ukraine's sovereignty and regional stability hanging in the balance. Trump stated before the meeting that he won't be happy without a ceasefire in Ukraine and even threatened to cancel future talks if the summit did not yield positive results. Ukrainian officials are closely monitoring the situation, concerned that Russia may retain control over the territories it has occupied during the conflict. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has been pushing for increased sanctions against Russia if a ceasefire agreement is not reached. The summit, which featured unprecedented security measures and meticulous preparations, has drawn global attention. The Russian Foreign Ministry highlighted the red carpet welcome for President Putin in Alaska, contrasting it with Western media narratives of Russia's isolation. Analysts note that the presence of senior Russian delegates and the absence of expanded U.S. advisory teams suggest a carefully orchestrated event, possibly signaling a breakthrough or at least a safe stage for announcements. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov and aide Yuri Ushakov were part of the talks, along with Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Special Envoy Steve Witkoff. However, key economic and security advisors were notably absent, leaving questions about the comprehensiveness of the discussions. As the world awaits the joint news conference, key questions remain unanswered. Was a ceasefire agreed upon? Will there be follow-up talks with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky? And perhaps most critically, will President Putin halt attacks and respect Ukraine's sovereignty? The shifting schedule, including the cancellation of some planned meetings, suggests that intense private discussions may have taken place behind closed doors. Trump has pledged to brief European leaders and Zelensky on the outcomes of the summit, though the specifics of what will be shared remain unclear. The optics of the summit have also raised eyebrows. Images of President Putin smiling and being warmly received have sparked both international attention and concern over the long-term consequences for Ukraine. Observers are questioning whether these visuals indicate genuine diplomatic progress or merely a staged spectacle aimed at influencing public perception. Critics have framed the summit as a public relations victory for Putin at the expense of U.S. allies in Europe. In the United States, the summit's timing and content are poised to become central topics of discussion. President Trump has pledged to brief European leaders and President Zelensky on the outcomes of the summit, though the specifics of what will be shared remain unclear. Analysts suggest that the information disclosed during these briefings could set the stage for the next phases of the conflict and the discussions aimed at resolving it. Trump told media that it is up to Zelensky to get a deal done and that European nations need to be involved. The Alaska summit has not only focused on the immediate issue of Ukraine, but has also touched upon broader U.S.-Russia relations. Both leaders have emphasized the importance of resolving the conflict by addressing its root causes and ensuring Ukraine's security. Additionally, discussions have highlighted potential areas for U.S.-Russia cooperation in trade, high technology, space exploration, and Arctic projects. Putin mentioned that Russia and the U.S. can offer each other much in trade and technology. While both leaders have stressed the need for productive, results-driven dialogue, concrete agreements remain elusive. Despite the emphasis on cooperation, President Trump has acknowledged that key issues remain unresolved. He has indicated plans to consult with NATO allies and President Zelensky before any formal agreements are made. Trump stated that there's no deal until there's a deal, and that an agreement on Ukraine is ultimately up to them. President Putin, on the other hand, has framed the discussions around broader security concerns and bilateral relations, leaving questions about the specifics of any potential agreements. Putin hinted that the two sides reached agreements, but did not specify what they entailed. The summit concluded with both leaders hinting at a potential deal but offering no concrete details. President Putin referred to Ukraine as a brotherly nation, while suggesting that Kyiv could be an obstacle to peace. President Trump emphasized that there would be no deal until there's a deal, signaling a cautious approach and the necessity for further consultations. The absence of a confirmed ceasefire and the lack of clarity on Ukraine's sovereignty have left the future of the conflict uncertain. Trump also mentioned that they agreed on most points, but a couple of big ones were not quite resolved. In the aftermath of the summit, analysts are warning that both sides will likely spin the outcomes to their advantage. It remains unclear whether President Trump or President Putin gained leverage, and the implications for Ukraine's future remain unresolved. The international community continues to watch closely, hoping for a resolution that respects Ukraine's sovereignty and leads to lasting peace in the region. As the situation develops, the world awaits further announcements and briefings that may shed light on the specifics of any agreements reached during the summit. The coming days are critical, as the decisions made will have profound implications for Ukraine, the United States, Russia, and the broader international community. In conclusion, while the Trump-Putin summit in Alaska has brought renewed attention to the Ukraine conflict, the path to a lasting resolution remains fraught with challenges. The ambiguous outcomes of the summit underscore the complexities of international diplomacy and the delicate balance required to navigate such high-stakes negotiations. The world watches closely, hoping for a breakthrough that can bring peace to a region long torn by conflict. The dynamics of U.S.-Russia relations continue to be shaped by cooperation, competition, and hostility.